not that everything's been hunky-dory their entire lives, but they've never felt a lot of oppression most of their lives anyway, so once they do come out...
No, I understand what you're saying. You're a member of a minority group already, and then coming out makes you a minority within a minority. And then you're a woman, so you're a minority within a minority within a minority.
I think it's like you said, your younger friend who has a strong character. She's strong enough to say, you know what? Screw what everybody thinks. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to be. But for others, they need that support. They feel like they need somebody there for them, and they feel like if they come out, they won't have anybody. Like they won't have the support of the black community anymore, for specifically black people, and they don't feel like they'll have the support of the LGBT community because there's nobody that looks like them within that community. People, again, can empathize with you, but they don't totally know what it's like. I mean, I still have white friends who really think it's okay for me to go in certain sections of town. They're like, "What's the big deal?" Seriously, not a good idea for me to go on that side of town. Like, just they don't get it. Like, they just don't. So I feel like, yeah, they might not get it. Yeah.
That attitude you're describing right there is sort of what I feel coming from the younger generation of gay people toward the older generation of gay people. Like, what's the big deal? Like, they don't get it. And I realized there's an entire history of our struggle that's not being handed down, and that it's really important for it to be handed down. And I think it's the reason we are still at where we're at. There's a complacency in the gay community that we have not been fighting hard enough or banding together strong enough for our civil rights. I went to go see Milk this weekend, and I would encourage everybody to go see it. Here it is, right here. Sean Penn was amazing, but that's besides the point. This movie took place, it's about a gay activist in the 70s, the early 70s. And I realized the rights they were fighting for then, the legal rights they were fighting for then, it's 2008, we still don't have them. And then there are, gay people of our younger generation don't even know his name. Everyone knows Martin Luther King. I mean, everyone knows him, and we should. Malcolm X. I mean, there's lots of activists that we should know. Name a gay activist. Can you?
Me?
Yeah.
I was going to say him, but that's okay. I remember that before.
Yeah, that's the only one I have.
That was the first one that actually came to mind. The guy, now I can't remember his name. Great.
See, even when I said that, I could see you you felt defensive, like I was challenging you, like everybody knows Martin Luther King, so blacks have it made. That is not what I'm saying. I'm
just saying that's like the only one.
I'm saying there's like a respect for the history.
Black civil rights activists, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I'm like, dang, was there no others?
Well,
and honestly, not every school teaches that. Mine didn't, but that's okay.
Okay, but do you see who's actually encouraging a competition right now? It's your side of the argument. It's the African American side of the argument that's encouraging the competition. There's no gay history. You don't know dick about gay history. You don't. I don't. No one does. But it's there. There has been fights and struggles, and we still have zero civil legal rights, and nobody knows the history of any of it. That's my only point. I'm not saying it's just as bad, or it wins, or black history is no longer important. I'm saying, look at this marginalized minority group. We have nothing, and it's time for us to band together and realize that there's a history of us that came before us. And you go see Milk, 1973, we have come zero distance in our fight for civil rights. That's amazing to me. Well, guys, I'm back in Indiana, and it's freezing. And for some reason, I wanted to shoot outside. I don't know why, probably because I so seldomly get to see snow anymore. But it is really cold. It's like 14 below. I feel like I'm shooting an episode of Survivor Man. But I'm not going to eat any bugs or anything like that. So I had to do one more installment with Dee and Leslie on Is Gay the New Black. There was just far more discussion about it after the 3 segments were put together that I thought were important and I thought needed to be heard and that expanded on this topic. So I wanted to give you just a little bit more on it in closing of the subject. And I know some time has gone by, and maybe we've all had some time to think about the issues that have been brought up, not only by Dee and Leslie, but by all of you participating in the forum. So what began as a metaphorical question meant to spark discussion about the last minority group in this country who have still yet to receive legal protection from discrimination pretty quickly turned into a demonstration and an educational discussion about how powerful racial issues still really are. I mean, we knew that there's still an issue in this country socially, obviously, but this discussion really brought to the forefront and really put a spotlight on how this issue plays a role in holding back the gay community as a whole.
You know, I think the thing about discrimination and oppression, it comes from fear of the unknown, and a lot of people just don't know a lot about each other. There's so, I mean, at least here in Chicago, there's so much segregation amongst the gay community to start with. You have boys separated from girls, blacks separated from whites, Hispanics have their own community, they hang out in their own neighborhoods, Asians, same thing, hang out with their own, and I think first is getting understanding and bringing those groups together before we can fight as one uniform front.
Like, the only thing that a lot of people feel like, okay, we're all gays, but that doesn't mean I need to, like, really deal with you. Just because, I mean, we're all fighting for the same rights, but the gay community is so diverse, like, so separated. Like, there are white gay people who have never spoken to a black person and never had anything to say to a black person or Hispanic person or Latino person or any of the races had nothing to do with each other until, you know, Prop 8 came out and then, like, the numbers came out. People wanted to blame somebody, and they were like, oh, my God, those black people. But it's like, you never spoken to a black person before, then all of a sudden now you want to say something.
What was interesting to me during our discussion and throughout the discussion that you all have been participating in the forums following the videos is there seemed to be 2 tracks of thought that ran through the discussion happening at the same time, and each one inhibited the conversation from becoming one cohesive talking point. Each one important, but it prohibited the conversation from sticking to one cohesive talking point, and I think the 2 tracks sort of helped each other miss each other. The first one was about the metaphor itself, is gay the new black? Let's just break it down. That metaphor, is X the new black, is obviously a phrase borrowed, stolen from the fashion industry where it was born. Saying something in the fashion industry is the new black is saying it's the new classic, it's the new topic at the forefront, it's the new mainstream focus. But also inherent in that metaphor is the point that black never goes out of style. It's classic, it's timeless, it's always got its integrity. And so also inherent in that metaphor is that not that black is now old or gone, but that it is always valuable and timeless, as racial issues will always be, in deserving that sort of respect. That's what the metaphor holds inherently in it. There's an argument out there that saying anything is the new black means that black is now passé or old. I would argue just the opposite, given that phrase was borrowed from the fashion industry. It inherently means that it's timeless. That's the whole point of that metaphor. In this case, saying that gay the new black is saying that not since the civil rights movement of the 60s has this country seen a group so universally excluded from legal protections and civil rights as the gay community still is today. That's just the fact. The second track of thought that seemed to take precedence in the conversations was, I think, lying underneath it, this assumption that that metaphor had anything or something at all to do with subsequent reports that came out that said that 70% or more of the black vote was against the gay civil rights movement, Prop 8 in this case, in California, that somehow this metaphor was born of that notion and born of some kind of resentment that the gay community wasn't being supported by the black community. Now, while that is an issue that probably deserves research and discussion and understanding on both sides of what's going on there, that particular point had nothing to do with the metaphor is gay the new black.